Hello there. Welcome into a Thursday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or you're listening on the new Extra Sports 1300 app, sponsored by Diversus Health, Mental Health, and Well-Being for All. A veritable cornucopia of sports topics, some not so positive, as I will get into here momentarily over the course of the program. I would love to get your thoughts at 719-247-1313. That is both the text line and the phone line for your convenience. If you're watching on our social media platforms at XTRA Sports 1300, I am wearing a suit because Air Force men's soccer this evening on ESPN Plus with myself and Jeff Bennett, if you are so inclined. So, Nuggets open tonight, and I want to spend most of our time together today talking about that. However, in terms of timeliness, the story that just broke in the last 20 minutes will take precedent, and it's not a good story. 9 News in Denver is reporting that Josh Reynolds, Broncos wide receiver, was wounded in a shooting on October 18th. So this is a week ago that this incident happened. The release of this story coming sometime after Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos met with the media today, I don't think is coincidental, but that's neither here nor there. So the reporting by 9 News, and this is from their news desk. This is not a Mike Kliss Broncos insider scoop. They say shortly after 3 a.m. on October 18th, 6 days ago, there was a shooting near East Hamden in South Dahlia Street up in Denver. And it continues on to say that Josh Reynolds was at Shotgun Willie's, which is a gentleman's club that has obviously gotten some notoriety based on the John Morant gun incident that happened a couple years ago there. But the victims reported that they were at Shotgun Willie's, left around 2:45. No problems at the club, but when they left, 2 drivers began following them closely. And then eventually they opened fire. Josh Reynolds was shot twice, once in his left arm and once in the back of the head. Now, what's a little nervy to me reading this is, obviously, if the worst would have happened to Josh Reynolds, we would have found out about it, right? So I guess, and I don't want to speculate too much given that this is a breaking story and it's a sensitive story, but if the worst were to happen to Josh Reynolds, I would imagine this news would have came out earlier. But still, you read in this article that he was shot in his left arm and in the back of the head. Another man was shot in his back. A third victim was wounded by shattered glass. And all 3 got out of the car, escaped climbing over a fence, and sustained some scrapes from doing that. So one of the alleged shooters or that was involved in this was seen on security cameras in the club, but not participating. If you understanding what I'm saying, but he was looking at Josh Reynolds. Again, want to be careful about speculation, but if nothing happened in the club itself, and this guy went into Shotgun Willie's just to scope out Josh Reynolds, that tells me that there's some history here. 9 News doesn't report more than that, so I certainly don't know more than that. But I've just been reading through this over the last 10 or 15 minutes, trying to distill it and bring it to you. And I don't know that I did a great job in it, but the headline is that Josh Reynolds 6 days ago was shot twice in Denver. And because he is on the injured list already, we didn't know the Broncos were under, and I'm sure the Broncos knew. I can't imagine this is breaking news to them as well as it is to you and I. But because Josh Reynolds had no chance of playing, wasn't with the team when they traveled to New Orleans, you think about the timing of it 6 days ago. That was the night before the Broncos played the New Orleans Saints. Josh Reynolds was not with the team. And he is on injured reserve. So there would be no reason for the Broncos to divulge this on an injury report because he's already out with the injury that he sustained a couple of weeks ago. So keep an eye on it. See if anything else comes about. I'm sure now the Broncos will say something, and I would imagine we're aware of the situation. Now, in situations like this, that prompts a team to release a statement saying we're aware of the situation. That's usually because it usually comes out of something that their player did wrong, right? Domestic violence, got in an altercation, whatever it might be. They say we're aware of the situation, monitoring it, yada, yada, yada. Well, there's nothing here that says that Josh Reynolds did anything wrong. He is listed as a victim. So perhaps the Broncos will put in something else. Actually, I probably should pull it up and just see, since it's come out in the last 20 minutes, see if the Broncos have done anything. No. Nothing yet from the Denver Broncos. And again, Vance Joseph was the last coordinator to meet with the media, and that, I think the timing was just about right on with he leaves the podium, news breaks. So hopefully, I mean, more than anything else, you hope that Josh Reynolds is okay and is going to recover. But now, if the Broncos, I mean, I got to imagine the Broncos would release a statement, but then Sean Payton tomorrow is going to have to address it. So until that statement comes out, or until any more reporting out of this comes out, we'll leave it there. But Josh Reynolds, Denver Broncos receiver, reportedly shot twice, once in his left arm, once in the back of the head. No mention of his condition. But again, if the worst happened, you would think that the headline would read differently. So I guess there's the silver lining in it. Not the way I intended to start the show, not the way that I like to start the show, but when news of that significance breaks in the last 20 minutes, I feel like should probably start with that. So now, actually, allow me to break here a little bit early than normal, but take a break, come back, and then we'll get into what I was planning on talking about today, which is predominantly the Nuggets opening the season with the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight. And coming up next, why all these storylines, and there are many with the Denver Nuggets, don't matter near as much if one thing for the Denver Nuggets goes right. A new week of football begins tonight, and that means it's time to report for game day at Hooters of Colorado Springs. With their craveable wings, ice cold beer, plenty of big screen TVs, and the world famous Hooters girls, they make it the number one franchise in the league tonight. Catch the fan filler, 10 boneless wings, fries, a dressing, and a drink for only $16.59. Get into Hooters of Colorado Springs for all the football action. Drive Time Sports on a Thursday. Again, the breaking news within the last hour that Josh Reynolds, Broncos wide receiver, was shot last week. And I want to clear something up because my math is a little sketchy. I'll blame it on the dental procedure I had earlier this afternoon. But I did the math wrong, and I think I said that Josh Reynolds would have been at Shotgun Willie's the night before the Broncos played the Saints. 6 days from today would be Friday, so the day after the Broncos played the Saints. But again, Josh Reynolds not with the team because he is on not playing because he's on injured reserve. But Josh Reynolds shot twice, left Shotgun Willie's on Friday of last week, was followed by a couple of drivers, ended up getting shot twice, once in the arm, once in the back of the head. But the Broncos just released a statement saying Josh Reynolds was a victim of a shooting on Friday in Denver and received treatment for minor injuries. Out of respect for the legal process, we will defer further comment on this matter to the authorities. So that Parker Gabriel, who covers the Broncos for the Denver Post, had that just a couple minutes ago. Now, to the business that I intended to attend to today, that being the Denver Nuggets opening their season tonight at Ball Arena against the Oklahoma City Thunder in what could be a Western Conference Finals preview. And I would welcome your thoughts on that possibility at 719-247-1313. And there's no shortage for a team, and I say this about certain teams in each league. Like the regular season just doesn't, I want to say it doesn't matter, but it comes just short of not mattering. And in terms of where the Nuggets finish, as long as they're one of the top few seeds in the West, I don't think, maybe especially given how last year played out, that anybody around here is going to be sweating it if the Denver Nuggets end up getting a second seed or a third seed. So the results, wins and losses, don't, I think, matter as much for the Denver Nuggets, given that they are a championship contender. And when you are that level of a team, the playoffs are what you look forward to. But I will say, for a team that is on that level, there sure is a lot of intrigue surrounding this basketball team. You have Christian Brown stepping in for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Can the Nuggets argue that they have the best starting five in basketball still with Christian Brown? How is Russell Westbrook going to fit? The role of Julian Strawther. How many minutes does Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic get? How hard does Michael Malone go at a top seed? How much does he trust the young guys, right? We've been talking about this stuff all throughout the offseason. So there's a lot to watch out for tonight and moving forward. But any worry that you might have as a Nuggets fan regarding this basketball team, whether it's Christian Brown stepping up in role or depending on Julian Strawther to be a contributor or trying to fit Russell Westbrook into this team, all of it matters much less if Jamal Murray is right. And I heard Giannis Antetokounmpo the other day call his season upcoming the redemption. And as long as he doesn't have a trademark on it, I would like to steal that and apply it to Jamal Murray. This reminds me of the last time Jamal Murray inked a lucrative extension. If you recall, his last extension was met with some consternation. Right? He was coming off of a 4 for 18 shooting performance in a game 7 against the Blazers. And there was some conversation that maybe Jamal Murray is not a big game player. Well, the very next season, Bubble Jamal was born. So yeah, Jamal Murray's a big stage performer. He went directly at that assertion with one of the most spectacular playoff performances that we have seen in Nuggets history, arguably the best. Certainly before Nikola Jokic and the title run. But what Jamal Murray did in that bubble went right at the conversation around him when he was given that extension. And I think there are parallels. Because now the question is not, while Jamal Murray signs another lucrative extension, whether he's a big game performer. You know he's that. But I'm looking for Jamal Murray this year to go right at the criticism and prove doubters wrong. And that has to do with health. That has to do with availability. If you will, I would like to see available Jamal be born this year. I don't think he has to raise his game to another level. When he's right, when he's healthy, I like his game just fine. And we can have the all-star conversation. Should he be, shouldn't he be? I would argue if he's available, he's got a great shot. What he does and what he produces when he's out on the court warrants a conversation of whether he is an all-star. So I think that's going to take care of itself if he's on the floor, if he's available. And it's kind of like Valeri Nichushkin, right? You know when it matters more that he's available. But when it comes to Jamal Murray, I think you need to see some signs that when it really matters, a rematch with the Wolves, a Western Conference final against the Oklahoma City Thunder, that Jamal Murray is going to be there and he's going to be right. And what better litmus test to find out if he can be right and healthy for the playoffs is being available during the regular season. Now, one of the storylines I mentioned of this season is how Michael Malone handles both he and Nikola Jokic. So as long as Michael Malone holds up his end of the bargain and doesn't press the panic button in these games like he so routinely does because he just doesn't trust who he brings in for these two guys. If he's a little bit more patient, if more importantly, the bench actually produces, then Michael Malone will manage Jamal Murray's minutes. I'm not talking about Jamal Murray playing 70-plus games at 38 minutes a night. Michael Malone can figure out how many minutes is the right amount for Jamal Murray on a game-to-game basis. If you need to play him less on the second night of a back-to-back, go for it. But I don't like load management any more than the next person. But I know it's a thing and it's not going anywhere. So I propose, and I've heard other people mention this, and I think it's perfect. How about you're available for every game? You just play fewer minutes. It doesn't seem like a novel concept, but that idea eludes so many head coaches. They're just like, no, he's out. Because they'd rather just count on him being not with the team than figure out a way to play him 17 minutes on the second night of a back-to-back. So if Michael Malone manages his minutes, Jamal Murray should cross the 70 game threshold. And it's not the MVP threshold's less than that. This is an arbitrary number I've come up with. I like to see Jamal Murray play at least 70 games this year. Injuries are going to happen to everybody. Nikola Jokic has missed games. But I think it's reasonable to expect Jamal Murray to be on the court if his conditioning is right, like he says it is, when he was pulled out of the preseason game last week. I think it was last week because of his knee. And he told Michael Malone, my conditioning's in a good spot. 70 games. And if he can avoid any long-term stints on the injured list, if it could just be a game here and there, then I think you can really believe going into the postseason that you're going to get the Jamal Murray that you know can help the Denver Nuggets win an NBA title. That's the Jamal Murray I need to see. I've seen bubble Jamal. I've seen playoff Jamal. I want to see available Jamal. And I think the Nuggets do too. If he's available, if he's right, Christian Brown doesn't have to be Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Russell Westbrook doesn't have to rescue the second unit. Or at least he doesn't have to as much. Still would like to see Russell Westbrook kind of take the reins of that second unit and be able to function while Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray are out of the game. Because here's another part that increases the workload of Jamal Murray when he gets staggered with the second unit. And when he gets staggered with the second unit, he doesn't have Jokic on the floor with him, so he has to do even more. I like staggering Jamal Murray with the twos to be not a regular occurrence. Because there are enough guys on that second unit that can hold their own. Maybe you put Porter with them. Or how about this? I know, crazy. How about just roll out 5 bench players and allow them to play for like 5 or 6 minutes? And the Nuggets not immediately blow whatever lead they have or fall double digits behind like they so routinely have over the past couple of years. There are other things that can help available Jamal happen. But ultimately, and Calvin Booth and Michael Malone said this after the season was over, they're looking to Jamal. You figure out how to be available, how to not miss extended time, how to look better in a way when you come back from any injury that may occur. They put it on him, and they continue to do so. Michael Malone, after that preseason game, said, I went to Jamal Murray and asked him about his conditioning. He knows that we're all listening for it. So like he did a few years ago when he signed his last extension, I'd love to see Jamal Murray this year answer the criticisms that are coming off of out of another disappointing playoff exit for Jamal Murray and the Denver Nuggets? Take your thoughts. 719-247-1313. We'll continue with this Thursday edition of Drive Time Sports. Big announcement for us here at Extra Sports 1300. You may have already seen it on our socials, but it benefits you. Get to that next. So as you are aware, if you've been listening to the show recently, been telling you about the Circa Sports Colorado app, which I am a huge proponent of. But a while back, I also had the chance to fly out to Vegas and stay at Circa Resort and Casino, checked out some of their other properties down there on Fremont Street and had an amazing time. And before I left, I was talking to Aaron and some of the folks there at Circa. I said, wow, it would be really cool to be able to send one of my listeners out here or bring one of my listeners out here. And then we got to talking a little bit about certain weekends, and they're like, we have a big music festival that we're launching the weekend of November 23rd. I'm like, hey, that's also the weekend that Denver plays Vegas. And they're like, yeah, big weekend. So now the great people at Circa have said, Ryan, we're ready to do this. So I, along with the great people at Circa Resort and Casino, want you to experience Las Vegas that weekend, November 23rd. One listener and a guest will get round-trip airfare, a 3-night stay at a Circa property, and 2 VIP passes to the inaugural Neon City Music Festival. If you are interested in such an excursion, you can enter to win at extrasports1300.com. That's XTRA sports1300.com. And if you're listening through the site already, you'll notice on the front page that there's a graphic with my ugly mug, and you click on it and you can fill out our form there. You got to enter before Monday. Get those entries in. And then Monday we'll be contacting the winner. So very cool of the folks at Circa to do that. And it will be a lot of stuff going on in downtown Las Vegas that weekend. So extrasports1300.com. Jamal Murray is the most important member of the Denver Nuggets this year. Not in terms, he's not going to ever trump Nikola Jokic, right? But I am taking what Nikola Jokic is as a given. And what we have seen the best of Jamal Murray as not being a given. So if you're asking me what the thing I'm most looking at this year, what player am I most closely scrutinizing as we move through the season, it's going to be Jamal Murray. And for not performance, I mean, if he struggles mightily, then that's a different conversation. But if he's the same as he always is in terms of production, that's fine. I don't think this guy has to become a 30-point-a-game scorer or anything like that. Just want him to be available. 70 games. Michael Porter just did this thing last year. Right? The questions about Michael Porter's durability, his injury history. Well, he answered those resoundingly last year. And I'm not even talking about how well Michael Porter played. The most significant thing about Michael Porter last season was the amount of games he played. And I feel like it's similar with Jamal Murray. Because I know if he's on the court, he's going to be great. Got to be on the court. 70 games. Steve G says, doesn't matter, less time, more games, or give him the rest. Jamal must stay healthy. He must. And look, he can do everything right and still get hurt. We acknowledge this. But there's a pattern to his injuries. There's a extended period of time that you feel like he's coming back and then he doesn't. And then it takes him a little while to get back going. You know what it looks like. You've watched this Nuggets team enough. You've watched Jamal Murray enough. You know what it looks like. You know what the concerns are. If he's available for 70 or more games, I know what he's going to be when the postseason rolls around. But there were a lot of signs throughout the season, not just at the end of it, which is what we fixate on, right? Is, well, Jokic and Murray kind of wearing down there at the end of the season. Throughout the season, there are some signs like, I don't know if Jamal Murray's 100% healthy. And then it all came to a head in the Minnesota series. Keep him healthy. And all this other stuff. Russell Westbrook, Christian Brown, Julian Strawther. Still, you want to see it, but it's not as important as long as Murray and Jokic, arguably the best duo in the NBA, are right. 719-247-1313. Continue to take your thoughts on this upcoming Nuggets season. I'll say if Jamal Murray is right, healthy, I think tonight is the Western Conference Finals preview. And if these two teams meet up in a 7-game series, and I'm not saying this to, knock Oklahoma City, because they got everything they need, not just to go to the NBA Finals, but to win it. Now, Boston is a juggernaut, right? But there's nothing that you look at with this Thunder team and say, oh, they don't have enough this in terms of skill. They have Chet, they have Shea, they have Jalen Williams, they have Lou Dort. Now they add Isaiah Hartenstein, who's going to be, I think, out tonight, but he will play, and he gives them an interior presence. It's not from a roster standpoint. It's not from a skill standpoint. But if the Nuggets meet the Oklahoma City Thunder in a 7-game series, I just trust Denver more. Right? Because this team has been through it. And I was thinking about this. There aren't many teams that have gone on the trajectory that Oklahoma City is on, and it's a credit to them. You're not going to hear me say anything negative about Oklahoma City. I think they're terrific. But to go from a team that was every year seeming to tank, stockpile draft picks, to go from what? The play-in to the conference finals? Tanking, play-in, conference finals in 3 years, and then to go to the NBA finals, like that's a trajectory we just have not seen a lot from NBA teams. And it's that scar tissue, right? That intangible thing that you can't quantify in a box score. That team is just, they've gone through it and they understand it. And I know Oklahoma City experienced a lot of heartbreak last year. They thought they were going to go to the NBA Finals. But you see with the Nuggets and you see with some of these other teams, I feel like Oklahoma City might not have enough scar tissue built up to be able to push through, especially against a Denver team that has been there before, that is hungrier than ever after the way last season ended. It's not a Oklahoma City doesn't have this or doesn't have that in terms of their players, their skills and everything. It's just, who do you trust in a 7-game series? Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic, and Michael Malone? Or would you trust Shea, Chet, Mark Daigneault? I trust Denver more if they get there. But regardless, these are two of the best, whether they meet up at some point during the playoffs or not. These are two of the handful, maybe less teams in the NBA that I can legitimately see winning a title. Boston, obviously. I would say Milwaukee would be the other team in the East. I don't know that I can give my vote of confidence to anybody else in the Eastern Conference. Got to see more. I got to see how it comes together for the Knicks. You know what the caveats are when it comes to Philadelphia 76ers. And on the West, I still think Minnesota is good enough to win a title. I just think they need to avoid the Nuggets if they can. But Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Denver, Dallas. So 6. About a handful of teams that can win a title. And 2 of them are meeting tonight at Ball Arena. Second game of TNT's doubleheader. Take your predictions for the Denver Nuggets at 719-247-1313. Shifting to the Broncos for just a moment here. Obviously, the big news yesterday was Andy Dalton injured his thumb, and it through reporting, we didn't quite know, did he already have this? Did it come up in the accident? Apparently in the car accident that he got into, that's where he sustained the injury. The Panthers medical team found it when they were examining him, and now Dave Canales says it's going to be back to Bryce Young, which obviously is a bigger story than just the Broncos have to face a different quarterback. It's this Bryce Young redemption story that some people are hoping writes its first chapter on Sunday against the Broncos. Sean Payton was asked about Bryce Young.
I think he's got good vision, a quick release. He shows accuracy, poise. He's played in big moments. In other words, I remember him coming out, he's played in, real big moments. So, I think that you flip the focus when you have a change in quarterbacks from like one to the other, and then study it as best you can.
Now, I will say, not in Bryce Young's defense, but just in comparing Andy Dalton and Bryce Young, certainly that something Bryce Young has that Andy Dalton doesn't is that mobility, athleticism. And I wonder if Dave Canales, the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, has looked at any Bo Nix game film. I know he has. He has to figure out how to beat Bo Nix. I wonder if they get Bryce Young moving and using his legs. Because that's something you just don't factor into the equation when it's Andy Dalton. Now, Andy Dalton has strengths, and I've said this. I think that however confident you are, 75%, 90%, 99%, given where we left Bryce Young last, and given what you saw, you have to be more confident, especially getting the news this early in the week and allowing Vance Joseph to game plan for him. I think you have to feel more confident. But he is a different quarterback. And a quarterback that could be theoretically a little bit more difficult for the Broncos pass rush to get to. And I think that's true when compared to Andy Dalton. But how much different is Bryce Young than Spencer Rattler? I think he's better. I mean, he was better as a prospect. I'm not going to weigh in on Spencer Rattler and say that he's not any good after a game. But the Broncos did a pretty good job of getting to Spencer Rattler, even with his mobility. And they did it with a 4-man front. They only had to rush 4. If the Broncos can do that again, they can keep Bryce Young in the pocket. They can keep him behind the line of scrimmage by playing zone. And I think that's one of the more interesting things to watch out for on Sunday, especially because we don't know the status of Pat Surtain yet. Sean Payton said he's still in concussion protocol, but it looks positive. Is this a game where you kind of say, you know what? We can wait a week. If it's borderline, if it's 50-50, why not just keep Pat Surtain out? And we're sitting here on Thursday. And it kind of feels like that's where we're at. But if Pat Surtain is back, then it's back to our regularly scheduled programming of the Broncos playing man coverage. But if they still don't have Surtain on Sunday, it will look very similar to what they did against New Orleans, and they were effective only rushing 4 guys. And then keeping Spencer Rattler from getting rid of the football by disguising coverages in a zone. So they could essentially, whatever they were working on with Andy Dalton, they could essentially say, okay, scratch that. Let's just go back to our game plan for Spencer Rattler. I think that even if Bryce Young is a better quarterback than Spencer Rattler, even if he's more athletic, I still think a lot of the same principles, a lot of the same ideas apply. But you can't, as much as your confidence goes up if you're a Broncos fan with Bryce Young starting, you can't be 100%. You should never be 100% in the NFL, right? There's no sure things. But you got to leave that little sliver. Because one of the things we love about sports is how unpredictable it is and how we get so many great stories. Right? Kurt Warner or Alex Smith. I think if there's any hesitation about going heavy on the Broncos on Sunday, it's that another undefinable thing of just, is this the Bryce Young reclamation project? Is this where he seizes the opportunity? If you're a Broncos fan, you hope not, but you got to leave in that sliver of doubt that just says, I've seen too many of these kind of stories to go Broncos 100%. But you could go 98, you go 99, but leave that sliver just in case a Disney movie breaks out on Sunday at Empower Field at Mile High. Take your thoughts on that. 719-247-1313. On the Circa Sports Colorado app, Broncos 10-point favorites for Sunday's game. That is a prohibitive favorite in sports betting parlance. But you'll notice, no matter what side of Sunday's game that you're taking, it's going to be that minus 110 split, which is what it should be, if you're asking me. But at so many other sports books that may offer you these great, hey, get in here promos, they're going to little by little take that back, recoup that from you by using minus 115, minus 120. It's just costing you a little bit more to bet on your favorite team. Circa doesn't do that. They keep as little money as possible on large market bets like futures and golf tournaments. They don't limit players based on their winnings. And if you ever happen to have a problem, and I have yet to have a problem with the app, but if you ever do, just know that real human beings and not chat bots will be helping you out with any issues you may have. So do what I did. Download the Circa Sports Colorado app. Compare, contrast, price shop. Pretty soon you'll be like me and you'll drop every other sports betting app on your phone. Must be 21 years or older and present in Colorado to bet. If you have a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Coming up next, Nikola Jokic can't win his 4th MVP this year. Can he? Welcome in, Drive Time Sports. Ryan Kaufman with you on this Thursday. A reminder, you can watch the show live on a daily basis as long as you follow us on just one social media platform, although we'd love for you to follow us on all of them. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. The handle is all the same to watch this show. It is at XTRA Sports 1300. Nuggets open their season tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder in what very well could be a Western Conference Finals preview as I am sitting here with one caveat, and that is Jamal Murray's health. I think we get there. Even if Christian Brown is not the adequate replacement for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, even if Russell Westbrook doesn't dazzle with the second unit, as long as Jamal Murray's healthy, that can get them to the Western Conference Finals. Now, maybe some of that other stuff could come into play along the way, but that's the one caveat I'll throw out there. But I am curious how Christian Brown steps in. Did you see that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope last night did not make a shot from the field? Nuggets might not be quite as good without Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but there's another side to this that's more the Orlando side of it. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope might not be quite as good without Nikola Jokic. And both things I think can be true. And yes, I'm fascinated like everybody is to see if Russell Westbrook can bring something to the Denver Nuggets, but I can say without equivocation that I am more tempered in my expectation for him than some. Maybe than most. I think it'll work to a degree. I think if you give him this second unit and say, go do your thing, I think it could be a better bench unit than the Nuggets have had in the last, certainly than last year. Let's start there first and then see how it goes to say, is it better than when they had Bruce Brown? But it wasn't especially great when they had Bruce Brown. Yes, he was a key contributor to that championship team, but that's when the bench unit shrunk and it was an 8-man rotation. I'm talking about during the season when 10, 11 guys are available. How did they look? They didn't look great. Bruce Brown was fine, but overall, the second unit, not great. I think it has a chance to be better. And let's not forget about Dario Saric. And I think that Michael Malone now understands that whether he likes it or not, he's going to have to give Julian Strawther minutes. Sprinkle and Peyton Watson. Not saying it's going to be the best bench unit in the league, but it could be in some ways better than what the Nuggets have had. And that could account to some degree if their starting five is just a little bit not as good as the last couple of years with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. There's one aspect to this season that hasn't been discussed a lot because I think the prevailing opinion is there's no way this is going to happen. But if hope is springing eternal with the Denver Nuggets this season, what better day than the day that the season begins than to really contemplate this question? Can Nikola Jokic win his fourth MVP? Because as I say it, I know what your immediate reaction is. No way. No way. And it's not because you don't want him to win another MVP or you don't think that he should. Because I brought this up in the hallways here, and the answer I got was voter fatigue. There's no way. The voters are not going to give it to Jokic again. And I can get on board with that theory, but I'll just tell you the pathway to at least where Nikola Jokic makes it a real conversation. Like, I don't want to vote for Jokic. Yeah, but. Here's the yeah, but. He won an MVP last year, and he did not average a triple-double. In fact, he has not done that yet in his career. If Nikola Jokic averages a triple-double, there's your yeah, but. One of the only other men in the history of the NBA to do that for an entire season is his teammate, And you don't think that that's a powerful character witness, if you will, to have on your side, Russell Westbrook? Saying, yeah, I won the MVP because I did this. Nikola Jokic is doing the same thing, therefore he should win the MVP. If Nikola Jokic averages a triple-double, I think you have a hard time saying no. As much, if you're an MVP voter, as much as you like to just put him out of your mind completely. And if that's the path for him to win a fourth MVP, it's actually not on Nikola Jokic as much as you think to earn MVP honors. If assists are what is lagging, if that 9.5, 9.8, 9.7, whatever it's been over the last few years, if that's the stat that keeps him from doing what Russell Westbrook did, couldn't you argue that's as much on his team as it is him? Knowing what kind of passer and facilitator Nikola Jokic is? And this is where Christian Braun, it's going to be interesting to see how much of the KCP role he truly takes on. Is he going to be that corner three guy? Is he going to have confidence to take those shots if Nikola Jokic finds him with a pass? Jamal Murray, I talked about him wanting him to be available more than anything else this season. If he is available, shouldn't that help? I think it at the very least will be a fascinating MVP vote if Nikola Jokic, despite all the voter fatigue that might exist, despite all the desire, I think, from around the league to crown SGA or Anthony Edwards or Luka Doncic, they would have to think long and hard about their vote if Nikola Jokic does something that even he has yet to do in his career. But there is something that could potentially keep him from doing that. Right? And it's also part of the reason why when teams load manage guys, they just keep them out of the game entirely instead of just managing their minutes because it kills their averages. Said last hour with Jamal Murray. Like, why not just play him 15 to 17 minutes on the second night of a back-to-back instead of sitting him out completely? Or do that at another time that you may want to load manage him? Well, because players value their stat averages. It's how they make all-star games, which is how they get paid. And as long as you're not stat padding, I'm okay with it. We all have metrics at our job, whether it's sales numbers, whether it's for me, ratings, things like that, you get bonused on or something that you need to care about to some degree in your job. I have no problem with players caring about their averages. But there's the reason why the alternative form of load management doesn't happen. Because if you don't play, you don't get a 0, you get a DNP. And your averages stay where they are. Nikola Jokic does not pay any attention to any of this. Right? But we know that Michael Malone is going to set out to give Nikola Jokic throughout the season more rest than he got last year. And that's not going to be in the form of sitting him out because he hates to sit out. He'd be just fine with playing 20 minutes, 25 minutes on a night just to save him a little bit, but he wants to be out there. He wants to make an impact. So you may say, well, that's going to hurt his chances of averaging a triple-double. And to some degree, it will. But you've seen Nikola Jokic play. When there is a game where rest is dangled in front of Nikola Jokic, because he values his rest, as we all should in our lives. If there's a game that he sees that he can put away early, that's where you get the first half triple-double. That's where you get, he's got 12, 10, and 9 at the break. I've seen it. It mostly against poor teams, for sure, but there are enough of them in the NBA to go around. But it seems like when there's a game where Nikola Jokic can earn some rest on the back end, he comes out more purposeful to start the game, to kind of take over and to get the Nuggets up big. When he knows that he's in for a long night and the Nuggets are going to need every single second of him to be at a high level, that's where he becomes a little bit more, I don't want to say passive, but a little bit more the facilitator early. He's not calling his own number as much. He's trying to store some energy in the reserves for the third and fourth quarter. I think there's something else, another achievement to unlock, another level to go for Nikola Jokic. Every year we see him, he gets better. There's something else with Nikola Jokic. We're talking about something else. So why would this year, coming off of how energizing playing in the Olympics were, think back to really his emergence for the Denver Nuggets coincided with him playing in the Olympics. And now he's going to come back, rested, ready, having a great summer, hanging out with all his Serbian brothers as they gave the Team USA all they could handle and winning a medal. You don't think he's going to be energized? I think it's entirely possible, even with this other stuff about him playing fewer minutes and leaning on the bench more and all this kind of stuff. I still think it is entirely possible that Nikola Jokic could average a triple-double. Now, 12, 10, and 10 is a different triple-double than probably what he needs. He's going to have to go above and beyond those just straight getting double digits. But that's the way. It's pretty simple. If he averages a triple-double, it may still end up being voter fatigue that keeps him from winning a fourth MVP. But the voters will have to think really hard about it. Do you think Nikola Jokic can win the MVP this year? 719-247-1313. Did you know that you can now use your own body's healing properties to revitalize your achy joints and get you real lasting pain relief? It's true. It's advanced regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics. If you're tired of arthritic pain in your knees, hips, back, or shoulder, this is something you need to check out. Everybody's talking about regenerative medicine, and the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics are experts in this. People here rave about their results. You can enhance your joints, improve mobility, and get back to doing the stuff you love without pain, and you're not doing it with surgery, with drugs, or with downtime. The consultation is totally free. If you've been dealing with arthritic joint pain, you at least owe yourself a free consultation at QC Kinetics, don't you think? 719-347-1988, 719-347-1988. Take action to get lasting joint pain relief with help from QC Kinetics, 719-347-1988. My friends at Circa Resort and Casino and I want you to experience Las Vegas the weekend of November 23rd, which just so happens to be the weekend Denver takes on Las Vegas. So plenty of Denver fans will be in town. One listener and a guest will get round trip airfare, a 3-night stay at a Circa property, and 2 VIP passes to the inaugural Neon City Music Festival. Ton of great acts lined up for that. Enter to win by Monday at Extra Sports 1300.com. XTRA Sports 1300. Let's see. Let's get to the text messages. And I'm glad, Aaron, that you're bringing this up. Aaron says, no way Jokic wins another MVP this year. Maybe I should read the sentence properly next time. No way Jokic wins another MVP this year. Maybe if there's a dearth of other talent, I could see it with a triple-double average. However, there's a bunch of young talent like SGA and in the skinny unicorn in San Antonio that will keep things fresh with voters. And I am glad that you bring that up, and I'm not guaranteeing that Nikola Jokic is going to win his 4th MVP. There will have to be other things that happen. First of all, you would have a historic precedence argument if he averaged a triple-double. So I don't think you can completely dismiss that he still couldn't win an MVP this year if he averaged a triple-double. And that will matter to some voters. But you're absolutely right. I was looking at the odds. Luka is the favorite at plus 325, SGA at plus 375, but there Jokic is plus 475. Better odds than Ant, who's plus 750, Giannis, who's plus 850. And if Dame plays the way that he did last night, Giannis isn't going to win the MVP. Tatum is 12-1, and Ja is my favorite MVP dark horse at 25-1. If I'm going dark horse, I'm going with Ja Morant. And I felt that way before last night, and then I watched the Grizzlies play last night, and I'm like, I'm feeling really good about it. Again, dark horse. I don't think Ja Morant could be considered one of the top 2 or 3 favorites, but if you ask me how far down the list I'll go and still be willing to place a wager, it would be Ja Morant at 25-1. But think about this here, and I certainly would not like the conversation around Nikola Jokic's 4th MVP to be, well, no one else was worthy of it. Right? I don't want that to be the narrative. But you could kind of see it, right? Not trying to put too much stock into the Wolves' loss the other night against the Lakers. But what if it's a little bumpy with the Minnesota Timberwolves this year? Right? And you may like Julius Randle more than you like Cat, but there's no denying that Anthony Edwards and Cat worked really well together. So could the Wolves maybe not have the seed or record that many thought that they would? Did Anthony Edwards have to kind of find his way with a new teammate here? Luka coming off of an NBA Finals appearance, is there a hangover? Does Dallas take a step back? I think adding the dynamic of Klay Thompson, someone that is very hungry and desires to prove people wrong. Not that I think Klay Thompson can be the Klay Thompson of old, but sometimes when you're a team coming off of a championship appearance, you need to inject some new players into the mix that are going to raise the energy level up a little bit. And I think Klay does that. But I could see maybe Dallas taking a step back. And then the guys in the East, Tatum can be canceled out by Brown and Giannis can be canceled out by Dame. The one guy that I have to say I don't know what could reasonably happen for him not to be the MVP is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, I don't have one of those. I don't think Oklahoma City is going to take a step back in terms of their record and their success. There's no reason for me to think that Shai's numbers are going to decline for any reason. He's got a lot of the momentum going into the year based on the fact that he came in second to Nikola Jokic last year. And there were some voters that thought that Shai should have won, like Shaquille O'Neal. I guess he's not a voter, but he's a very loud mouth, and he told Nikola Jokic to his face that Shai should have won the MVP. I can't, and I'm not even saying that, like, especially with Luka, I don't think Dallas takes a step back. I don't. And Luka would be probably my pick for MVP. Because I tend to get a year ahead of myself on these things. And Luka was my pick last year. So I would probably, and it's not a crazy pick at all. In fact, he's the betting favorite. So I'm not trying to, earn your respect by saying, wow, what a limb Ryan climbed out on there with Luka Doncic. That's just the way I feel. But the one situation, the one player that I just can't see anything happening to greatly impact his MVP candidacy is Shai. I think he's going to be brilliant. And I think a lot of people are going into the season ready to vote for him. But again, my point is Nikola Jokic with less than and maybe that's the way I should phrase it. Anything less than averaging a triple-double for the season, there's no way Nikola Jokic wins MVP. To your point, Aaron. If he averages a triple-double, then it's not as easy to dismiss him. And I think the MVP vote becomes much closer. And then we'll see what other context we add around everything. Do the Nuggets somehow finish above Oklahoma City? Does Nikola Jokic make Russell Westbrook look like Oklahoma City Russell Westbrook, and we're just saying, man, we got to recognize this guy. Literally, you could play anyone next to him. It'll make it work. There are other things that could transpire throughout the year that will bolster Nikola Jokic's case. But the threat, the line, it's almost the floor with him. In order to have a real shot at being the MVP this year, he has to average a triple-double. And even then, Aaron, you might be right. Wemby, I don't think is going to win MVP. Defensive Player of the Year, book it. Most Improved Player, perhaps. I don't think Wemby can win MVP this year. But let's all find out, shall we? Starting tonight. Denver and OKC, 8 o'clock tonight. The betting line for tonight, Denver -2, which I feel is like right on the nose. Like 113, 111. Can't you see that? I probably take the Nuggets with the idea that, hey, if they end up winning by 2, I'll get my money back. I won't win anything, but I won't lose anything. Denver -2 tonight if you are so inclined. And I found that line on the Circa Sports Colorado app, and you've heard me talk about them enough to let you know Yeah, minus 110 split either way. It's a better experience for the better. That's what they're going for with Circa. So I'm talking to you, and you're probably somebody that knows their way around when it comes to sports betting apps. And they're really are wanting you. They're really trying to tailor their experience to you, the serious sports bettor, with things like not limiting players based on their winnings, like keeping as little money as possible on large market bets like futures and golf tournaments. You're who they want to provide the better experience for. So try it out for yourself. Compare, contrast, price shop. I think you'll end up doing what I did. Delete everything else. Make Circa Sports Colorado the sports betting app of choice. Must be 21 years or older and present in Colorado to bet. If you have a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Time cut short today because I got to head up to the Air Force Academy. I have Air Force men's soccer on ESPN Plus tonight, if you'd like to check it out, but there's so much going on. Juice will be in the net again for the Avs tonight as they take on Utah Hockey Club, the first ever meeting between those two proud franchises. And then, of course, week 8 in the NFL begins with the Vikings and the Rams. You'll be able to hear that game right here on Extra Sports 1300 starting at 5:30. For now, I bid you adieu, and I will talk to you tomorrow at 3 here on Extra Sports 1300.